You said that you spent 3 months in the desert just binging on cocaine and all you wanted to do was die.
Mm-hmm.
How do you reconcile how you felt then and how you feel now?
Well, I really look at that point in my life as kind of a turning point, you know. The day that, that I bought the gun and I had it in my mouth, and then I was like, right at the moment of truth, something clicked in my head that said, you know what, you never quit anything in your life. Why are you quitting now? And I look at it as that was the day that I chose to live. Now that I've chosen to live, I better get my act together here. And how am I going to do that? And it was funny because my oldest boy, I think he called me a week or two after that happened. He said, you know what, like, what are you doing? What are you doing down there? He goes, we need you up here, like, get your ass back to Calgary. And I knew at some point in my life that I would have to go back to Calgary because there was so much stuff that happened there that I hadn't dealt with yet. And it was funny. I remember driving back. I got through the border, and I was about an hour and a half from Calgary, and I had a full-blown panic attack, and I was like, can't do this, da, 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 da. And so I called a friend, and they were like, no, man, you got to do this. You said you were going to do this, and your truck is all packed up, and your house is all packed up in Santa Fe. You got to do this, and yeah. So it, and you know what? I'm so glad that I moved back to Calgary because there's a lot of really cool stuff that's happened. I met my wife there, who through this whole process has just been unbelievable, amazing person that supports everything that I've done. And she was the one that encouraged me to start repairing the relationship with my kids. And 5 years later, it's amazing the relationship that we have with the kids. We have 4 kids, so Josh is 22, Bo's 12, Tatum is 10, and Skyla is 16 months. And we're a crazy mixed up family, but you know what, it works for us. It really does. But yeah, that I look at that as a real kind of turning point in my life, as to instead of pulling the trigger and not being here, that day I really chose to live, and how I was going to do that. You have to work as hard on your sobriety as you worked on when you were using, right? And but yeah, that's that was a huge breakthrough for Jennifer and I, was to get those kids back in our life, and so they could trust us and really get to know us. That we weren't these horrible people, right? And
what do you think would you say are like the 3, if you had to choose 3 main key things that are important in rebuilding a relationship like that? You mentioned trust.
Trust, and just showing up,
Just being there.
Yeah, just, that's all kids want. Doesn't matter what you do, they just want you to be there with them. And, accountability is huge too, If you're going to do something, if you say you're going to do something, make sure you do it.
Do it.
Because, you don't want to let them down. You know, you really don't want to let them down, and
It goes into the whole trust factor.
yeah, absolutely.
You speak about being very superstitious. You put on your equipment from right to left, every game and every practice, and how this ritual became very important to you after the abuse because it was something solid and something that you could count on. Did you back then, or do you now have any other kinds of rituals that you have to do?
No,
No.
I don't. You know, it's funny. On September 18th of 2005 was the day that I got sober, and it was the day that I surrendered and turned my life over to something greater than myself. And basically that day I got out of the driver's seat and I got into the passenger seat, because every time I drive the bus it crashes, right? So, you know, now that I've been in the passenger seat for 4.5 years, my life's great, you know?
Who's driving?
Who's driving? Well, God's driving the bus, you know? And that's one thing about sobriety, you know, that not a lot of people talk about, is that you will not get sober unless you find something or somebody to turn your life over to. I call him God. Some people, you know, believe in other stuff. And for a long time, I didn't get that concept. And because I didn't get that concept, I kept relapsing and, you know, getting deeper and deeper and deeper into, you know, my addiction. But I tell you, the day that I turned my will and my life over to the care of God, as I understand Him, you know, I'm not religious, I don't go to church, you know, I'm very spiritual, and I've really gotten back to who I am, the core of who I am, which is, you know, I'm a Métis person, and so I do smudging, I do sweats, night lodges, that kind of stuff, and you know, it's been a wonderful experience to get back to really who I am as a person, and but yeah, the spirituality side of this whole addiction process is a key component into, you know, being able to live my life one day at a time without the use of, you know, drugs and alcohol. Because if I have a problem that I can't solve, then I just throw it to the big guy upstairs and let him deal with it, you know, and just trust that whatever outcome that is, that I just have to trust that that's the way it's supposed to be. And, you know, for 4.5 years, things have been great, so I'm not going to change that.
Just going back to an earlier time in your life, your first wife, Shannon, she had a friendship with Graham James. How did that make you feel, even after the abuse, that he still had this presence in your life?
Well, it just goes to show you how really good he was at what he did, right? So
that's what I was,
you know,
thinking as well.
He gained the trust of all the people that surrounded me, right? And which then allowed him to, you know, do what he did. And but I can tell you, Shannon and I have a really good relationship. We share Josh, our oldest. He's 22, and she's been very helpful through the investigation process with the police, and has really helped a lot. And yeah, so you know, I think at the time I was probably a little bit upset or, you know, confused as to why she would be doing that. But you know, that's the power that this guy had over, you know, all of us. Is that
such manipulation?
Yeah, absolutely. You know,